here.
And let's talk about that a little bit for people who might not know, because the beef between you and Donald Trump go back to the days of when you were a talk show host comedian. He was a personality.
A reality show. He had The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Which was all fiction.
Yes.
And a lot of people in America didn't know that it was fiction because they sold him as America's biggest successful businessman. And he had been bankrupt 6 times. And he had lots of charges of sexual abuse against him. And he is, known for lying and for corruption.
We're about to watch Rosie O'Donnell, the former comedian and TV host, take aim at Donald Trump once again and explain to the people of Ireland why she left America and sought refuge there. As always, we'll watch the full video together, and I'll share my thoughts with you at the end.
Morning
to you both. Lovely to have you.
Lovely to see you. We're delighted that you're here and joining us. And we have to ask you, how are you finding Ireland? You're only here since January.
Yes.
How's it going?
It's amazing. It's better than I could have imagined, and I never imagined leaving the United States. I didn't even have an Irish passport, although my siblings do, because I thought, well, I'm never moving out of the United States. I'm kind of like a stay-home mom kind of person. And but then when the election happened, and it was quite obvious what was going to occur as they put out a book that announced it, Project 2025, I knew that it was time for me and my young autistic child to come here.
And let's talk about that a little bit for people who might not know, because the beef between you and Donald Trump go back to the days of when you were a talk show host comedian. He was a personality.
A reality show. He had The Apprentice.
Yeah.
Which was all fiction.
Yes.
And a lot of people in America didn't know that it was fiction because they sold him as America's biggest successful businessman. And he had been bankrupt 6 times. And he had lots of charges of sexual abuse against him. And he is, known for lying and for corruption. And he had a charity that he and his family now can never do a charity again in New York because they stole money from children who had cancer.
And this is all fact.
All you need to find out these facts is a computer, people. I am not an investigative journalist. I simply lived there my whole life. And in New York, where he grew up as well, we're around the same age. I'm 63, he's 107. Is that what he is? I'm not sure. But, and so I've known who he was from the get-go.
But a lot of male chat show hosts were saying the same things that you were.
Yes.
But it was just you. You just got under his skin.
And he went crazy in a way that I was shocked. And it's almost 20 years since that show.
And he's still, to this very day.
To this day, at the debate, they said to him, you call women pigs, gross, disgusting, fat, ugly. And he said, no, only Rosie O'Donnell. To roarious applause and laughter in the audience. And I was at home with my kids watching it going, how do you explain this? Luckily it was they were pretty young at the time, but now my youngest is 12. My other ones are in their 20s.
Yeah.
So it's really to protect my 12-year-old that I knew I had to come.
Because let's talk about that. A lot of people said they would leave should Trump become president and all this kind of stuff. You did leave for reasons of safety. What was happening to you in the streets?
Well, it wasn't so much in the streets, but after he won, I was in CVS with my child, and 2 different people, one with a MAGA hat and one a Trump supporter, came over and told me with curse words that their guy won. And, said the F word in front of my child, who said, why are people cursing at us? And I said, well, remember I told you that there was a guy who's not so nice and he's running for president again? Remember when you were a little baby and he was the president and everything went wrong? She said, yes. I said, well, he's back now. And she said, so it's time for us to go.
And that's what, because you did stay during his first presidency.
I did, and it was a difficult time for me mentally and emotionally.
Because this has obviously taken a toll on you over these years.
It's something to go from being a kind of known celebrity in America that people liked, that had a lot of accolades, that had a lot of, to despised by half the population. Half the country thinks that he is the new coming of Christ, and half the country sees what's happening, that fascism has taken hold in America, and it's terrifying, not just for America, but for the world.
And You arrived over going, you know what, I'm going to move to Ireland. Sure, it'll be grand. I'll sit down, eat some potatoes, have some whatever.
Keogh's crisps are out there.
Put to work straight away by this young man here.
What Rosie O'Donnell delivered here wasn't just a personal story. It was a reality check that too many people still refuse to confront. And Dee, watching her speak so openly about her experience, I'm reminded of something I keep seeing over and over again. When people finally decide to tell the truth about Donald Trump, they're not exaggerating. They're describing a pattern. And Rosie has lived through that pattern for nearly 2 decades. I think what shocks me most is how consistently Trump goes after her. Not because she said something outrageous, not because she attacked his family, but because she told the truth about who he was long before the rest of the country caught up. And Dee, instead of proving her wrong, he spent years proving her right. Every insult, every smear, every cheap shot, it all painted a picture of a man who simply cannot tolerate accountability, especially when it's coming from a woman he can't intimidate. And when you line up the things he said about her, the body shaming, the name calling, the personal attacks, it becomes impossible to ignore the obvious. If any ordinary man targeted a single woman like this for years, we wouldn't call it politics. We'd call it what it is: bullying, harassment, and abuse of power. But somehow, when Trump does it, people get quiet. They look away. They pretend it's a joke or just Trump being Trump because they're afraid of the backlash from a base that treats him like a mythological figure instead of a political candidate. And that silence has consequences. Not just for Rosie, but for anyone who has ever been publicly targeted by him. Rosie also mentioned Project 2025, and I'm glad she did, because it's one of the most important conversations we aren't having in the mainstream media. This isn't speculation. It isn't fear-mongering. It's a fully published roadmap outlining exactly what a second Trump presidency would attempt to do. From dismantling federal protections to consolidating power in ways that should concern every American who values democracy. And instead of sounding the alarms, too many outlets are treating it like background noise. That's how democracies weaken, not with one big collapse, but with a slow normalization of things we should never normalize. And when you listen to Rosie describe what life became for her, the public hostility, the verbal harassment in a pharmacy with her child standing next to her, you understand that these political conversations aren't abstract. They have real-world consequences for real people. No one should feel unsafe in their own country because they criticized a public figure. No child should watch grown adults curse at their parents simply because they support a politician. Yet this is the environment Trump helped create, and it's the environment some Americans are still trying to excuse. To me, Rosie's story is a reminder that character matters, leadership matters, and the way a leader treats the most vulnerable, or targets the people who challenge him, tells you everything about the future they intend to build. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so we can get this conversation in front of more people. I'll see you in the next one.